Hi, and welcome back to Continual Fandom. I'm your host, Jim Nettles, and tonight, to give you a little hint as to what we might be talking about, it is time to get everyone in the chopper. We are here to talk about the Predator franchise. So let's see who all is in here that's going to be the first victim. So, Len, you're up first.
Ah, good. That means I must be Shane Black in this particular instance. I can be killed off in the first movie, and then I get to write and direct the sequels. I'm Len Berry. I like to say that I'm the writer of Ethereal Darkness because I have so much dark stuff in my science fiction and fantasy. There's a glimmer of hope in there. Somebody has to make it to the chopper after all, or get awarded a revolver by an ancient predator. Either way, I write all kinds of weird, crazy stuff, and I'm sure I will have lots of things to say about fun, gigantic aliens that are just slightly shorter than me.
Mickey?
Hi, I'm Mickey Dubrow. I write a little bit of everything, sci-fi, fantasy, uh, political thrillers, dystopian novels, just whatever strikes my fancy, I go for it.
Jenny?
Hi, I write I'm Gini Koch, and I write the Alien Catherine Kitty Cat series for Dog Books. I also write under a variety of other pen names and in all lengths and genres. And I have been lucky enough to get to write a Predator story, so I'm super excited to be here.
EM?
All right. Hi, I am Lacey. I write dark fantasy and horror, as well as young adult horror. And I love Predators. It's like my favorite franchise.
And Fraser.
Hi, I'm Fraser Sherman. I write historical fantasy, also film reference books. My most recent, The Aliens Are Here, includes a chapter dealing with Predator, Predator 2, and Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, because they're all forms of genre mashup.
So looking back, I think all of us had a chance to learn to appreciate the Predator early on in series, whether we could see him or not. That little shining glimmer. But Len, what was your first exposure to the Predator series, kind of all of this particular universe?
The previews for the original movie. I remember being a kid and seeing this mysterious preview for this Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He was kind of an icon in the extended family because my aunt and uncle, their hobbies when they were dating included counting the number of kills in Commando. So this was kind of like, oh, another Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. It looks kind of like Commando, except what is this weird, muddy, weird looking guy with a torch for an arm screaming in the darkness with this? What is that all about? Then I watched the movie, and that's just Arnold Schwarzenegger. I was always kind of curious, if only from a fandom perspective, but again, like I said, what's this guy screaming in the darkness about? I don't know.
He still is. It's all right. Mickey, what brought you to the franchise?
Well, I saw the first film in the theater, and I was a bit trepidatious because Schwarzenegger had mainly been doing B movies that were fun, but didn't really spend that much time or thought on them. So I was surprised. I was very impressed. I was thrilled that Jesse Ventura was in it because I was a wrestling fan and I was a Jesse Ventura fan, and Carl Weathers. So it was a great cast. And I was just really curious to see what they were going to do. And when I saw the film, I was very impressed by the effects and the story. I mean, it starts out in one direction where it's like almost like a typical Schwarzenegger film action, and then it just takes that detour with the alien and the sound that it makes and everything else. It just sucks you in, and it just becomes a great ride all the way to the end.
Yeah, and there's some interesting stuff there about how they came up with the voice of the Predator and all of that. There's some fun stuff behind that too. So Jenny, what brought you to the franchise?
Date night.
We all know how you feel about horror, so I want to know how you made it through the whole thing.
It's more action. than horror. You know what it is. As I remember, the audience sees what it is way before the characters do. And I'm a big Carl Weathers fan. So I wanted to go because Carl Weathers was in it. And like Mickey said, when it makes that turn and it's absolutely not what you're expecting. I did okay. It's not, it was more of the Most Dangerous Game for me than a horror film. The second movie got a little more horror, but even so, it's a hunting film, right? And We're the Prey. And I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, there were scary points and everything. And for the day, there were some very bloody scenes, but I handled it because I honestly don't consider Predator horror. I consider it action adventure. So I made it through and liked it. Liked the second one, blah, blah, blah. Love the Adrian Brody one, but I know we'll be getting them.
Ian?
Predator had me from the first movie. I saw it in the theaters, and I just liked the mix of, action adventure and then that twist when, with the Predator. And I just like, for every movie that came out after that, I was on it. And like, I looked for the novels. I didn't know about the comic book, so I'll be going at that soon. But I love everything Predator.
Yeah, you're gonna have fun with some of the crossovers like Batman and the Predator, and I think
Oh
there's even
yeah.
Darth Vader and the Predator. Yeah, there's some absolutely ridiculous crossover.
Yeah, because I think there's a Darkness, like, because I follow the Darkness. I think it's a Top Cow comic, and they
Okay.
actually have a Predator series too.
Yeah, I mean and if you get into there's one of the graphic novel series about basically them invading the Earth, which is an interesting.
Ooh.
Fraser?
I was house sitting for my mum. She had cable, which I didn't, so I was checking out to see what was available. There was Predator. I didn't have high hopes for it because Arnold Schwarzenegger action movies are not usually my thing. But much like Mickey, it turns out it's a very good mashup of 80s action film with science fiction, and the two blend together perfectly. It is very well executed. That is not something I would say of most of the sequels. The only ones I'm really enthusiastic about are the first Predator Alien movie and Prey, the Native American pre-Columbian one, which was, well, not pre-Columbian, which was freaking brilliant. The others I can take or leave, and preferably leave.
Well, let's spend a little bit of time playing with the first film, right? That because it was one of those things that was playing with expectations. We had a pretty heavy cast coming into it, and that notion of okay, this is just another action film, dive into the jungles, get in the fun. Let's see how far this will go. And looking at that moment and looking at just the cast, the actors, everybody that they had, you start out with it just looks like another cheesy 80s action movie. We all loved them. We all still do, I think. But so Mickey, from your perspective, what is it about the story that kind of grabbed you and really took that turn?
Well, I actually did kind of like the idea at the beginning that it was these big, muscular, over the top, action characters going into the jungle, but how they reacted to the Predator was great. It's like, how they had to outsmart him. They had to, start really figuring out how to survive. And of course, you start getting picked off one by one. It's the guy who lasts the longest who finally has to figure it out. And you don't feel like that Schwarzenegger was the smartest. He was just the luckiest one to last that long to where he could finally figure out, oh, if you're covered with mud, he can't see you. But I love the fact that the Predator had a sense of honor. Like he wasn't going to kill anyone who wasn't a predator. He wasn't going to kill the woman because she was pregnant. That, the monsters, you didn't see that kind of morality from an alien, in the Alien movie. So that was very refreshing too.
Jenny?
I think I'm kind of where EM was. It takes a turn you don't expect. And at that point, either you're out or you're in. And clearly the audiences were all in because it's absolutely, it's taking a trope you expect and then spinning it and saying, actually, the person here who has the most likely chance of survival is not any of these guys. It's the alien, and here's why. And I think the imitation of the voice and the laughter, and when Schwarzenegger figures out he's got to self-destruct, right? I mean, just all of those things. And yes, Schwarzenegger being able to figure out, the character being able to figure out that, oh, he couldn't see us when we were this, so I have to hide in the mud to have a prayer of winning. It stripped characters who came in armed for bear down to, you have to get smarter. And I don't know if they intended it, but it seemed allegorical for the Vietnam War, because the Vietnam War was not over that long before this movie came. And it really felt like you could easily make a case for an allegory of they were Americans in Vietnam and how the Viet Cong kicked us out because they understood guerrilla fighting far better than we did. And so I liked it on that level too, because I could see it on, okay, I don't think it's trying for this, but maybe the writers were. Maybe someone somewhere in there said, I'm not going to say it out loud, but again, like Ian said, when it takes that turn and all of a sudden they're no longer these big guys with guns, it does not matter. You can't see what you're fighting and it has better weapons than you. It really changed it from just, that ho-hum 80s action, yay, into something a little deeper.
Ian?
Like what everybody, the whole thing and basically how the conversation's been going with, it starts off one way. Because I remember the scene where Carl Weathers and Arnold, like they grab each other's hand and they zoom in on the muscles, and I'm like, all right, cool, this is an action movie. And then as it continues, how, again, they're all stripped. Yes, they're muscled and they got big guns and they're big guys and they're out in the forest, like, well, not the forest, the jungle. And they're fighting something that's bigger than them, smarter than them. And then just even how, as they start, being picked off, how just even the one guy, Billy, like nobody really talks about Billy, but just Billy's that Native American. And it also sort of shifts into that, just that whole natural thing, how he sensed when it was near. So it just sort of touched on some of that, just back to the roots, type of thing. And when it was down to like one man and one woman, just how, again, that sense of honor with the predator, I think that's the thing that I love the most about it. It has a code. And unlike the alien, who it's like, okay, you're here, you're an incubator for more of us. So that's how they view, anything. But with predators, they bypass the sick, they bypass the children, and they hunt someone who's capable of fighting back. They don't just kill for the sake of killing, So that's the thing that I liked with the first movie, just seeing that, like, hints of it. And of course, in other movies, it, gets a little bit more. You see a little bit more of it, but it was, yeah, I love it. I love that about it. And I love horror. So just that whole creepy thing following them, and for what's following them is like worse than any, I guess you could say, like the people that they were hunting. Like it was worse than any animal, any armed militia fighting them. It was something. So yeah, that's my take on it. I love that.
Fraser?
I think just the craft level of the film is high. It's well written. The action plot line of getting the hostages back from the neighboring country and the slow presence of the predator becoming bigger and bigger mesh smoothly. They don't conflict. The predator has a personality. At the climax, when it takes off some of its weaponry so it can go mano a mano with Arnold. It, as others have said, it wants sports. Of course, then it undercuts that by, oh, you beat me, I'll just blow us both up with a nuke, which isn't really sporting. As far as what Genie said about Vietnam, I don't know what was on their minds, but I noticed the ending, Schwarzenegger ditches the tech, gets dirty, goes primitive. It's pretty much what Sylvester Stallone does to beat the Vietnamese in Rambo. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was an influence on the film. But
Yeah, and the one other thing.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and you have to remember, this is in the middle of a lot of the Sandinistas and a lot of Central American conflict at the time. I didn't mean to cut you off, Fraser.
Oh, I was going to say, but basically it's just really well done. And it's one of the few aliens that does convey a personality, even though it never really says anything. Also, as they mention on the commentary track to the DVD, they have someone who makes Schwarzenegger look small enough that he can be beaten up. And I mean, that's purely a matter of finding the right body, but it matters. And it was a good choice.
Len?
Yeah, it's more echoes from me. The first third of that movie, it starts off with the meme, hand grip tug of war bit, and it goes into like, hey, it's Commando again, but with more money and for the budget and maybe a little bit more on the cast. And because of that, it plays out, hey, this is going to be Commando, but bigger and better, except by the end of Act 1, they finished the movie that would have been Commando. So now you got an audience sitting there going, wait a second, something's wrong here. This is too short. Yeah, it's too short. It's too short on purpose, because there's little hints of dread before that, but it could be the people that they're, it could be the militant force. It could be Carl Weathers' other CIA pals. It could be anything. No, it's this alien, and it's here to hunt. It's not here to kill. It's here to hunt, and that's a very different distinction.
And welcome, Mr. Van Patten.
Hey, sorry I'm late. We had some tech issues here at the Brooklyn area.
No worries. You want to do a quick intro and then kind of talk a little bit on your take on the first film in the Predator franchise?
Sure. Stephen Van Patten, writer of horror, dark fiction, and tequila enthusiast. I'm old enough to have seen the first movie in the theaters back in the day. Loved it, watched every iteration since, read several other things, including stuff like Predator versus Batman and all this other crazy stuff. Just a big fan of the franchise, period.
So what was your take on the first film?
The first film, it was just, I gotta admit, it was a little scary. It was fun. It was not what I thought it was going to be at all. It was kind of, for, as a kid seeing it in the theater, it was kind of a groundbreaking moment there. Just in terms of, what they were able to accomplish visually, and, the whole cloaking device thing and all of that. It was quite a ride.
So now I'm going to dive starting into the controversy because we can. I happen to be a fan of Predator 2, recognizing it has its issues. But I mean, from the moment that you look at the fact that you've got basically Danny Glover coming in off of Lethal Weapon, and you can just see that look on his face of I'm just too old for this, right? And having to deal with, now you've got a Predator fighting in the inner city, and he's got plenty to play with. So Jenny, how do you feel about Predator 2?
I liked the characters better than I liked the movie. I liked the police detectives. I like the fact that it's very clearly made. The Predator can see that the female detective's pregnant, and that's why she isn't dead. Which, slams in again. They have way more honor than we do when hunting. I thought Danny Glover getting into the spaceship was kind of like, really? Um, it, I really think it has its moments. It's not fair to say it's my least favorite, but it isn't. I am shocked that the franchise survived it, might be the best way of putting it. So it was very, the sets were awful. I'm from Los Angeles to look like LA. It doesn't feel like I don't know. It's just it's not as good, and yet somehow manages the Predator itself is interesting enough that I think it keeps you, even though the rest of it. Danny Glover's a really good actor, so he's holding you. But I am shocked it didn't kill the franchise.
Yeah, and considering the fact that Gary Busey's kind of cleanup crew looked like they had stolen all the equipment from Repo Man.
Yes. Yeah. My God, yes, yes. I tried, honestly. I have to say it has to be my least favorite. I've blocked half of this movie out unless somebody reminds me of it. So like, oh yeah, they're going through the cold room, right? Yeah. It was one of the things I think was great though is it gives you a lot of material if you're writing Predator stories. And I'll talk more about that when we get out of the movies.
Ian, how about you?
Predator 2, to me, it was campy. Like, I just thought it was just fun. Like, and then I was also pretty young when I saw it. So, like, I had no real expectations. And of course, I just got a kick out of some of the, cheesier scenes where you got, like the Rastafarians, and like when they get out of the car, you see all the ganja smoke, and I was like, I giggled. I thought it was hilarious. Like I had fun with the movie. It's like I didn't. There's some movies I approach, I just have no expectation. I don't really take it seriously, and I enjoy it more because I'm not looking for like award-winning stuff. And I thought it was funny, and some of the I'm the one who would quote like, the cheesy lines you like with friends. So I enjoyed it. It didn't kill the franchise for me, but it's easily forgettable because it was just sort of cliche.
Fraser?
I think Danny Glover is great. The cast in general is excellent. But a movie, you take him, Predator, the first movie, you've got him taking on a half dozen of the deadliest, toughest men in the world, highly trained commandos. In the second movie, he's hacking up a bunch of gangbangers and some cops. It's nowhere near as interesting. Plus, the propaganda elements that you can always trust the cop on the street. Nobody else cares. They're doing what's right. The entire police structure is either self-serving bureaucrats or tied up in red tape, and the gangbangers have an overwhelming advantage. Why doesn't somebody do something? Oh, good. We have an alien who's going to kill them all. Thank goodness. And that pissed me off too. It would not have bothered me as much back if I had seen it when it first came out. But those would be my two big complaints. Also, the fact that the alien gets to cross off kind of funny, snarky lines and cuss a little did not work for me at all. So I'm not a fan of that one.
Steven?
Well, I got well, all right, just to piggyback off of Ian's point. I didn't go into this expecting Shakespeare in the Park, so I didn't, I there was not this big bar it had to cross. First of all, I have to say that one thing I did love about the movie, Danny Glover survives. Not a regular thing. Back in the day, it's still not a regular thing, or it's better now, obviously. That's what I'm speaking of in terms of people of color making it to the end of a horror movie. And there are quotable lines, come and get it, El Scorpio is ready. it for me it was fun. It was and it came and it produced a great joke. Something to the effect of predators must be like Republicans because going to the whole baby thing. They believe in capital punishment, but they're also pro-life. So there was that. I like I said, I had fun with it. It's ridiculous, no matter how you look at it. But yeah, I get a kick out of it.
Len?
There's something cool about Predator 2, and it's Predator. Gets his hand hacked off, and it has to put itself back together. This isn't first aid like in the first movie. This is, I'm now missing an appendage and have to put it back together again. And the whole cauterizing scene in that apartment, scooping up the slurry of broken glass. I'm like, okay, that's got some personality to it. I appreciate now that to get back to that hunter notion, that Danny Glover does go and hunt the predator on its own turf, being the spaceship. But yeah, I think Jenny's kind of right. I'm surprised that one didn't kill the franchise. Honestly, for the longest time, it did kill the franchise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki?
Well, I'm going to be the outlier here. Until Prey came along, Predator 2 was my favorite Predator movie. I think because it was campy, mainly because of Danny Glover. I just thought he was so great in that film. It was gritty. It was hot. It was a high-end B movie. It rode along. The jokes were funny. And, it was written by the same guys who wrote the first one. So this was obviously the direction they wanted to go in. You could kind of look at it like the, Planet of the Apes movies. With each sequel, they got a little cheesier. Could have been going the same direction. But the main thing I love about that film is at the end, when Glover is in the spaceship and he realizes the predators have been hunting humans on Earth for centuries, and that this has been going on forever, and that he's just the first one to human to live long enough to figure it out. And that kind of like saved the whole film for me.
Well, and looking at that to me is one of the bigger parts of Predator 2 is you actually start getting some of that kind of narrative and backstory. And it's more than just the creature is here. It was more than just the personality of the creature. And that's part of the reason I actually do, as bad as it can be, love that scene at the end with Danny Glover going and, then all the rest of them showing up around him going, here's your trophy, get out. Again, that goes back to that notion of honor. But again, I think there is a degree here of it killed the series for a while. I mean, I remember, when I was in college, we had long, huh?
I just looked, 20 years. It killed the series for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Well, we'll get there. So, I mean, I remember sitting there in college and watching the movies and having those conversations about, are aliens and Predator in the same universe? Right? It was the who can win, who can beat who. And then, better than a dozen years later, we got the answer, kind of, sort of, in things that should have killed the franchise. But we got an answer. Yes, they exist in the same universe. And I think we also got some of that notion of backstory from Aliens versus Predator and AVP Requiem, which, anyway, at least AVP wasn't that horrible. But Ms. Lacey, any thoughts on the mashups there of the AVPs? Those nice little fun mashup films.
Oh, I loved each and every one of them, and it's like I have the collection, like I have all the Blu-rays of the Alien franchise, but I found those, especially the first one with Sanaa, Alien versus Predator. To me, it made me love the Predator more because it's like that whole, they come there, they have their rules and they have their code and they follow it to the letter, and just always, I feel like with us, the humans, we're always sort of like in the way, like toddlers running around and grown-ups are trying to get something completed. So that's how it seems to me. And always, it just always shows the whole notion of, you know, like people are always like the scientists or the corporations are always trying to find something that they can use to make more money, and they don't care, pretty much who they put in jeopardy, whatever, but it's all about the dollar in the end. Yes, I might, make some advances here or there, but it's like stolen tech, which they'll never say. And, they just sort of run into something that's, again, like the original Predators, bigger and badder than they are. So, in the end of all of that, the people, it just seems like the nobler people survive, and the predators, they do what the predators do. And just, it sort of even gave me like the look of like with the aliens, it's like they are also intelligent, they also, and I would love to sort of read a little bit more about them, but they even, they also have their own sorts of intelligence. Like in AVP, the first one, how they were doing a thing, they fought the predators, but then they also got together and freed their queen. And even though they're like a hive mind, they still plotted, and they did sort of get the upper hand. Like they're calculating. And I love like just getting deeper into just the mindset of the aliens, and just how, when like just with the sense of honor part, where when Sanaa decided to fight alongside the predator, how it gave her a means to defend herself. Like it gave her a shield, it gave her a weapon, and they fought neck and neck. And I felt like even just through those scenes, you see the predators learning a little bit more about humans, and you can see that sense of just mutual respect building as they fight alongside each other. And that's what I enjoy about the predators, that you know they're good teammates. Like if there's a war, I want to be on their side. So it's like, that's what I enjoy about those mashups. And then with the AVP Requiem, that was a little bit more campy, especially the part where it's like the government wouldn't lie to us. I just died laughing with that part. And just, I loved every bit of that, just with you have the camp, but then just the hybrid, like how the aliens can just sort of incorporate whatever they infect. Like whatever they infest, they become it, and they sort of incorporate it into what they are. So with that alien hybrid that was like part predator, part alien, I was like, ooh, this was great. And just watching that whole thing, I was fascinated. So it wasn't even so much the plot or lack thereof. I just loved the creatures and just that whole evolution. And then just getting just getting that little peek into the minds that have been tracking the aliens and the predators for years. At the end, I was like, okay, who are these guys? What are they doing? It's like I wanted to know more, and I didn't really get to see more. And just tying that all the way back to the company and aliens, like how they knew about the aliens like in the future, and technically timeline wise, this predates aliens with the whole AVP.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole company has been watching them for years, and they've always known, and they've just kept it secret.
Well, and the first AVP, the thing I think that it gave the most was you got to see there really was backstory between the aliens and the predators. You got to see the impact on humanity, sort of stuff. So there was some fun stuff there, but to me the big thing was, Lance Henriksen being that crossover between both franchises as well.
Oh yeah, he's the king of like B movie horror from back in the day, from Pumpkinhead. I was like, oh yeah.
But remember, he was also in the Aliens. He was in Aliens as Bishop.
Right, that's true.
So there was a bit of fun there. Fraser, how about you? What were your thoughts on the crossover films?
Alien versus Those were kind of fun, particularly the first one where they have the huge predator complex and the humans and the predators and the aliens all fighting with it. It looked good. It was fun. I've got to say, the backstory where the predators are just using us to breed aliens and then, oh, they're getting out of control. We'll just nuke that whole civilization. Again, not exactly honorable by my standards, but I liked the film. And I thought Alien versus Predator Requiem was also fun. There is a comic book crossover I would like to talk about at some point, but not now, obviously.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Good.
Stephen?
Well, that first one, I enjoyed it, and so what was funny about the first one is I want to say I had very low expectations. And not for any other reason except for the fact that they had taken so long to, come up with this. I do want to jump back to Predator 2 for 1 second, because if you guys remember the trophy case that Danny Glover actually kind of stumbles upon, there is an alien head in there. At least that's what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that AVP was going to happen a lot sooner than it did. So that was
if I remember right, it was supposed to, and then I don't think it performed quite to the expectations of studio guys at the time.
Right. Yeah, so we get it. And the fight scene and the Aztecs and all of that, I thought that was pretty well laid out. But then when you get to Requiem, I think, okay, so the one thing that sticks with me with Requiem is the scene in the hospital with the pregnant lady. That was, and sometimes when I see these things, I think to myself, well, whoever came up with this really doesn't like people very much. And that was kind of my takeaway from that. It was like, that was grisly. But it was also campy at the same time. I mean, the whole franchise has definitely kind of gone into that sort of, it looks like they're making the effort to be taken seriously, but then, at some point it's like, okay, well, we're just gonna let them fight it out, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be, and it's gonna be this so-called honorable warriors in this sort of beehive, murderous beehive kind of situation on the other side, and it kind of is what it is.
Len?
There are some cool, fun things about Alien versus Predator. I mean, that's a torch that the comic books and video game, lit after the second movie because of that trophy room. And the fact that they made a movie of it was very fan kind of rewarding circumstance. I do kind of think that those two movies it created this sort of trend that I noticed with Predator movies that, okay, yeah, I remember the Predator being so big and powerful and everything. How about from here on forward, we're going to make it where it's always going to be something bigger than the Predator that can beat the Predator up like it's a small child. That sounds like fun. Only they're going to have humans too. And that I never really could get behind that. There's an exception to that, but it's only that it proves the rule. Because once we had that exception, they made an even more egregious version. So there was a nice sense of character between that one predator, that one alien with the the net on it, which I have to say, if nothing else, the AVP stuff does come up with some cool toys for the Predator. I mean, it's just extrapolating on Predator too, but at the same time, cool toys for the Predator, and that's half the fun.
Mickey?
I'm going to confess, I've not seen the Alien versus Predator movie, so I can't make a comment.
Oh, well, now we're going to give you something you got to go do tonight as soon as we wrap. So, yeah, your homework.
I was going to say, Mickey and I both have that homework. I haven't seen it either. I don't like Alien. I've seen the first four movies, and other than Aliens, could have lived without all of them. So seeing them, my husband's seen them and he likes them. The highlight, which I didn't have to see because everybody talked about it, for me, for the first one, is that a predator forms a relationship with the one surviving human female, and she gets treated with honor. And I liked that, but I didn't want to have to sit through, 2 hours of alien creatures, which I do not like. They freak me out. And if it's a choice between being hunted, where I might be able to escape and, be patted on the head and live to fight another day, or be turned into somebody's, disgusting, I'm going to burst out of your chest womb, I'm picking predators. So I'd much rather go see a predator movie than an alien movie. And so I haven't seen them either. Nikki and I can be joined in our we didn't go. Yes.
Well, these films were enough to sort of revitalize, bringing us into more stories just of the Predator, right? So then we get into Predators and the Predator, kind of those two back to back. I'm gonna kind of lump them together because there's a lot of
Unfair,
very similar themes between the two. So Fraser, on those, because again, when I look at that, it was almost that we want to return to the roots of the series, but we really want to mess it up a little bit. So any thoughts on those couple of films?
Okay, Predators I have not seen. Predator was the 2017 or so one by Shane Black, yes?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes. That one, it was okay, but it felt like it was just going through the motions of following the original, plus throwing in government conspiracy, plus the idea that autism is a step up in evolution, which just pissed me off. So not horrible, but nothing that made me feel, boy, I want more Predator movies. I didn't know Prey was around the corner.
Steven?
Well, I just want to comment about Predators was that the casting, it was like, let's find the least likely people to put in a Predator film. It's like they had a list. What are the least likely people who should be in a Predator film? Well, Topher Grace should be the top of the list. Adrian Brody, Walter, but it worked. That's what was so weird. I mean, it was like, how did these people did they all need boats? I mean, what was the thing that inspired them? But yet I loved it. I thought it was great, campy. I love the, different types of predators and the ideas. But yeah, when I looked at the actors, I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
Steven?
Well, okay. Some of the actors, yeah, you're right. I agree. But I mean, first, yes, it's a yes and no. First, you have Danny Trejo. Now, everybody's scared of Danny Trejo. I mean,
I love him.
Yeah, exactly. So then you got him, Marshala Ali, who I actually forgot was in this until I, in preparation for this, I rewatched it. And I was like, oh, right. So he's your future Blade. He's, and Adrian Brody, he can act. And, apparently he hit the weights for this. So
he did.
Yeah, it kind of worked out. I thought. Lawrence Fishburne was a nice treat. It was nice to see him actually just be crazy for a second, which up until that movie, I didn't know he could do. Like we're Lawrence Fishburne, you're kind of doing the Lawrence Fishburne thing.
Look, we knew he could do crazy just because he'd been on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
I forgot about that.
Right. He was
sweet. I forgot about that completely.
He was sweet.
But he was, I thought that was a nice touch. The end left me a little cold because I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so they're eventually going to die, because how the hell do you possibly get out of how the hell do you possibly get out of there? It's that kind of left me a little cold. So and as for all right, so it was, because that's the other thing, they're not even changing the titles that much, so it's like Predator,
the third, and the Predator,
right? So I don't know. I enjoyed and I do see your point about the autism thing, Fraser. that was a little okay. I mean, I kind of saw it coming because it was like that nice little bait and switch with the last name and whatever. But again, I'm not looking, for the riddle of steel here. It's just, okay, this is going to be Predator killing a bunch of people. Oh, there's a new giant big Predator. Yeah, so that's kind of like a recycled idea, but different because now we're actually making use of the spinal fluid. I guess that was like the talking point with that. I don't know. Again, I'm just taking this stuff for what it is. I'm enjoying it, but then I'm, like the rest of you guys, I'm also like, well, that doesn't really make sense, and that's kind of dumb. But okay, let's go.
Len?
Okay, so I did say that there was a trend, and here's the trend. Predators, they said, hey, the idea, the title is kind of triple entendre. You have all of these killers and convicts and everything. They are predators of a sort. You have the big wolf, equivalent predators. Okay. Then you have the regular predators. Okay. I especially liked Stephen's wonderful intended or not comment about Lawrence Fishburne being a treat given his particular plot in the movie. He is trying to make sure that everyone else is on the menu. I enjoyed that movie. I had just as many trepidations as everybody else is. Why is Adrian Brody trying to be Arnold Schwarzenegger? Oh crap, he could actually manhandle that AA-12 and kind of pull off the commando type. He must have actually hit the gym, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy that movie. I mean, maybe it's because, we got another mangled predator. It's like, okay, I don't even get a first aid kit this time. I just have to fight. That's the exception that proves the rule, I think. The Predator, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. We've got the urban setting of Predator 2. We've got the big group of people. We've got the government plot, which I don't know why it's here exactly. We're trying to echo the CIA in the first one, maybe. And then they said, hey, that Predator you came to see that's actually going to be finally awesome again? No. We're not going to do that. Fuck no. We are going to put in a computer. Enjoy your computer. I'm like, great. It's trashy CGI thing that everybody's doing bad wire work on. And then at the end of the movie, Boyd Holbrook does his best impression of both a Predator and Iron Man. Yeah. I was like,
Jenny?
The fourth movie convinced me that I never want to see predators in an urban setting again. The third movie, though, Predators with Adrian Brody, is my favorite in the entire franchise. I love that so much. Topher Grace, right. The casting is brilliant because you do not expect it. Adrian Brody can act. He's won an Oscar, and yeah, it doesn't take much. The studio will give you a trainer. He was great, and he was smart. And that was something that was nice to see, in that we're continuing, because I feel like Arnold's character in the first movie is not so much smart as he has the staying power. Danny Glover's character is smarter, and he's really using detective skills, not just running around. But I felt like they increased the intelligence level with Adrian Brody so that he's smarter than your average thug by a lot, and he is clear on what has to happen. Topher Grace is more frightening than the Predator in this movie, and that is not insulting the Predators. They did a fabulous job with casting, because you just do not expect it to be as good as it is. I love the movie, and Stephen, my viewpoint is they're going to steal a ship. When the next one comes in, he and the chick are going to steal a ship, and they're going to get out. Now, what I was told when I was writing is that the property has kept them on the planet. So per Disney, they're still on the planet. Per Gini Koch, they made it off, and they're badass probably going to the home planet to destroy it, right? So anyway, I loved this movie. I loved everything about it. I loved the casting. I loved the shock. I love the twists that you do not see coming. And I love the fact that two of them at least have basically made it, and then you see more falling down. So you're like, okay, this guy can lead, so maybe he'll get more of them and they can survive. And if there are enough people that survive, you can take over the next ship. So I loved everything about it. And like I said, the Predator convinced me I never, ever want to see another Predator movie set in an urban setting.
Yeah.
Let's see. Predators and the Predator. I, like Jenny, I enjoyed Predators. And I like that it was like they chose different types of hunters, and then they have like the Yakuza. They have like Mahershala's characters, like an African, I think he was like someone like a gun for hire. He just, he killed for whoever paid him. Then you, of course, have the Mexican cartel with Danny Trejo. I love Danny. I love the machete. But yes, so you had him. Then with Adrian Brody's character, what I liked about him is that what made him smart was that he wasn't like all emotionally attached. Because that's the thing with some movies that drives me nuts, is like, I can't leave you. Adrian's like, bye, I'm about saving my skin. So that's, yep. And that's the thing that I liked about his character. It's like he was a predator. It's like he was, like when he got there, just how he left everybody behind. Like he was there, but he was like looking at it from a different perspective. So he was a really worthy opponent for the Predators, because he was cool with playing other people against other people. And then, Topher's character, I was sort of like, okay, why do we have a serial killer? Okay, so that was clever to have him be the serial killer, and he's after, of course, the only woman in the group. But I'm like, okay, he was a surprise. He was a surprise, because serial killers are a form of predator, and the way they hunt is unique. And I think that maybe even with that, they were sort of like a petri dish, or just sort of like a test, like just a testing ground to see what type of, predators roam the earth, or, what do they have to look for. Because like with Topher, I'm like, why is he in? Like when I saw it, I was like, okay, why is he here? It's like everybody has to defend him, really. And then he flipped the script. And then I just got a chuckle out of Lawrence. I loved Lawrence's character. Like, he was off from the very beginning. I'm like, something's not right with him. And then he just sort of, threw them to the wolves to try to save himself. But I just really like that one. And then for me, I felt like Adrian Brody was sort of like Christian Bale and trying to sound, to me, it just sounded like he was attempting to sound like Batman. And I'm like, dude, be you. And then for the Predator, it was super campy to me. And, it was okay. Like I watched it, it was cool. I enjoyed my little bits and pieces, but I was like, they could have done better. So that was like, to me, out of the franchise, that was sort of the most disappointing to me, but I'll watch it anyway, but it was just sort of the most disappointing out of them.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to bring us up to the latest film, which I did like Prey a lot, right? I thought that I thought that it was kind of invigorated, brought a whole new blood, whole new take on the Predator, going back in history and looking at things in an entirely different way. So, Stephen, what was your take on Prey?
Initially, just having watched all of these movies or all of this like advanced technology, machine guns and everything else like that, I was expecting either this to be like something that didn't make any sense at all, or something that at best was going to like handicap Predator somehow. But it turned out to be so much better than I thought it was going to be. I just, and first of all, being the big diversity and inclusion advocate that I tend to be sometimes, it was so refreshing. Just that part of it, just that aspect. The fight scenes were so imaginative since you didn't have the machine guns and the muscles and all that other stuff. You kind of had to really like rejigger the whole thing. But I was thrilled with it 100%. And that's one of those things that I could watch over and over and over again. And I honestly only feel like that about two things in the franchise: the very first one and this one.
Len?
Wow. Yeah, Prey is absolutely fantastic. I literally have one problem, only one problem with that movie. Why didn't they give it a theatrical release instead of just making it stuck on Hulu? That's my only problem with the movie. I was like, they keep complaining about box office receipts. I will gladly pay for a ticket to watch this on a big screen.
Well, I think that was the timing.
Yes.
Yeah.
A little of it was the timing, but at the same time,
yeah,
it was, at a point where it's like, hey, we need to get the list going again. There are so many imaginative things in it. I kind of wish that this isn't a knock against it. I know that there's I believe it's the Lakota language version, or at least there was talk of it. I would have been fine with that because the movie speaks well enough through character. They didn't even need subtitles. That they did enough expression and positioning with camera and character and symbology. Just a fantastic movie. I loved every bit of it. I love the fact that the Predator in this movie does not have as advanced of technology as the Predators in the other movies.
Mm-hmm.
And they demonstrated that, and that really impressed me. I'm like, okay, here comes the laser beam, and it's like, no, it's more kind of like a sniper shotgun. Oh, that's different.
Nikki?
Yeah, I loved it too. I thought Amber Mid-Thunder was amazing. The way it served under, people who don't normally get to be the action hero. It was very realistic. But something I thought was really clever was that the promo, the title doesn't have Predator in it. And the promos, I knew it was a Predator film, but the promo does not have the Predator in it. It doesn't show you that. It barely hints that there's something more than just a story about a native woman hunting. And I love that that's the way they presented it. It's like, go beyond. This was the idea. They wanted to go beyond what the other films had done. And so even in the marketing campaign, they did that. And I was very impressed by that.
Jenny?
I haven't seen it yet. Fourth movie made me go, I'll wait for reviews, I believe. So now that you all have said it's great, we'll be watching it this weekend.
EM?
I loved Prey. I liked the fact, I love the fact when you have that unexpected hero. Like you have the younger sister, like in a male dominated, environment where the men are hunters, and you have this, she's petite, like she's like little, but it's all about smarts. Like the best predator is a thinker. It's not so much the size, the size of the guns or the size of the man. It's the mind, it's a mind game. And that's what I feel like for all the Predator movies, that's the thing that always sticks out. It's a battle of the minds, not so much a battle of might. And I feel like Prey drove that home because you have the littlest person using the things that she's learned as a healer to, in the end, come out on top. So I love that. Of course, the cinematography, and then what is it? The poachers who were killing buffalo and all that. I'm like,
The French.
Yeah.
yes, those guys, the French. Yeah, so I mean, at least they got theirs. But it was an excellent movie. It was just excellent overall. Just, and I think the cool part is, of course, the dog didn't die. So that was nice. But
Thank you for telling me,
it,
because now I can watch it without trepidation.
yeah, so no, the dog lives. The dog's great. But just the movie, I think the only issue I would have is just that CGI bear. But other than that, the
Mm.
movie in itself was just a masterpiece.
Fraser?
I agree. It is amazing. On the one hand, compared to what we've seen in the series before, it's completely out of left field. On the other hand, Predator 2 showed us that they have been preying on us for centuries, so it fits perfectly into the mythos. And that aside, it's just really well done. It was a delight. I think I have heard this argument. Contrary to Len, there is something to be said for releasing it on Hulu. In the theaters, even though it's very good, it might not have done well. And then it will be, they put a Native American woman in the lead. They went broke because they were woke, blah, 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 blah.
Mm.
And on Hulu, it had time to build its strength and find an audience without that pressure. And so possibly that was a good thing. But either way, it's a wonderful film. And yes, Genie, watch it. The dog does live.
Literally, when I told
Yes.
my husband this was the panel, he's like, "How can you be on it? You haven't seen Prey." And I'm like, "If they say it's good, we'll watch it this weekend. And if they say it's like The Predator, we won't. It's an easy decision for me."
So, there's a ton of tie-in stuff, right? I mean, books, comics, games, all sorts of stuff that have been built around this universe.
Mhm.
So I'm just going to kind of throw this as an open question. What's your favorite tie-in property? And Jenny, you have to go last. Fraser.
Okay, this is a relatively obscure one from the 90s, but Walt Simonson, and here's the reason I picked it up, did a 4-issue miniseries, Tarzan versus Predator at the Earth's Core, which takes Edgar Rice Burroughs' Pellucidar setting. The predators have set up shop there. Tarzan comes to visit. They think, oh, he looks like he will be good prey. This does not work out well for the predators, particularly after he thinks they've killed Jane, then it's open season on them. And because it's Walt Simonson, he's so damn good and knows both the Predators and his Edgar Rice Burroughs. It's just a wonderful, fun 4-issue series, and I recommend it.
Steven's next.
All right, Steven.
Well, like I think I mentioned earlier, I did check out Batman versus Predator. And I really did it just because, when we're talking about fabulous plot armor, I mean, no one's better than Batman. So it's just I know nothing consequential is going to come from this, but I'm going to read it anyway, just because, hey, it's like, well, what are you going to come up with for him to get past the Predator? It's kind of like a game. But I mean, I played the video game back in the day, and it's just as it's as harrowing as a video game could be. Yeah, those are the standouts for me anyway.
And one of my favorite things is that it is a franchise willing to poke enough fun at itself for some of these crossovers. Len, anything on your front?
Oh yeah, I've got something. The Alien versus Predator computer game. I have spent many hours with that. So my group of friends, known as the Asylum, because you have to be crazy to live in that house where all of them live, would often play Alien versus Predator. And some of us gravitated towards certain roles. A couple of brothers that lived there, they gravitated toward the human roles, even though they were, as they like to say, running around with their dick in their hands, because you always start with just a knife in your hand. Not a good start when you're a human against aliens or predators. Had two other guys there. They would always play as aliens. One of them would play as just a standard alien drone. He'd scurry along things. And the other one would play as the big, burly Praetorian who's so big he can't climb walls, but he doesn't have to. He's just that big. Boom, 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 swat, swat. That left me to play the Predator. And, sometimes I could get going, and yeah, there were a few times, that the aliens, those guys, they coordinated perfectly. But when I had my toys charged up, oh, here comes the little squirrely one. It's gone. Oh, here comes the Praetorian. Oh, I'm out of juice. All right, here's the claws. So that was my friends would disown me if I didn't own up to that one. So
Yeah.
Mickey?
Well, Archie versus Predator was the best Archie crossover since Archie versus the Punisher. But I mean, I just thought, what a great idea. I mean, there's really no one that can defeat Archie. We know that. But I like to see that the Predator tried at least.
Ian?
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier, like Witchblade, the Witchblade series, they have this one book which I have to get and read that one, where it is, the Witchblade in darkness versus Predator, and I think they have a little splash of aliens. And I just like the whole Witchblade in darkness series. So I'm definitely that's like one of my favorite, mashups.
Fraser?
I already did one.
He's just trying to avoid me.
Oh yeah, Jenny, you. What's your
My
favorite?
absolute favorite is Predator Eyes the Demon, because I have a story in here. By the way,
Whoa.
if you would like to read, this is not the only Predator anthology, and there are Alien versus Predator anthologies. There's just a bunch of them. Okay, so they're out there. I think they're all from Titan. Okay,
Yeah.
this one is. I'm not going to swear that that they aren't coming from anywhere else. But if you like reading Predator short stories and AVP short stories, loads of them. So that's my favorite, Predator Eyes of the Demon, still available. Great audiobook on it too, by the way. So we got to do a lot of really fun things. This is the first one where we were allowed to use female aliens, and we could also use the female predators. We could also use the predator dogs if we wanted to. And we were the first group so allowed. We were not allowed to use anything. We weren't allowed to use anything AVP for Predator Eyes of the Demon, and we weren't allowed to use anything past Predators. We could use the first 3 movies as reference, but we couldn't use anything else. So, and how I know all that stuff I was saying about Adrian Brody's character is that I wanted my main character to be his descendant. And I couldn't do that because, oh no, per Disney, he's still on the planet. And you can't use Schwarzenegger's character because that's a different thing. And you can, so I could pull characters out of 2. They let me use characters out of 2 that could have progeny. So, so it was great. It didn't let me do the full story I wanted to do, but that was okay. And so Disney's there. You have a layer of Predator, and then you have a layer of Disney that you have to get through on these things. And for AVP, you've got Predator and Alien, and then Disney coverage. But the stories are all universally really good. They're really fun. So again, I strongly recommend Predator Eyes of the Demon.
And now that Steamboat Willie is in the public domain, maybe we can have wait.
Yeah. I think they kind of drew the line there.
You ugly mother.
I've gotten to write a Predator story. Okay? I'm super thrilled. So I don't care. I could happily have put Steamboat Willie in there too, but I really wanted it to be published. So because they had Disney had the yeah, right, exactly. Disney had the ultimate right of refusal. I mean, if you did anything they didn't like, you were out. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was the day before it had to go to press. If you didn't do what they wanted, your story was not going to be in this book. But even within that, we had a lot of leeway. I got to do pretty much, other than the character lines, I got to do a lot of what I wanted to do. So my characters are, I've got two human characters. One's descended from the female cop in Predator 2, and one is descended from the female whose name I should have memorized, but I have forgotten right now, who makes it out of the first movie. So I got to tie back into lore, and that made me very happy.
So wait, it's descended from Anna
Mhm.
and what's Maria Conchita Alonso's character? I'm not
Yes.
coming up with that.
Yes. So
Wow.
one of my female characters is Callie is descended from Anna, and Scary Sherry is descended from the other one. Yes.
Oh, I'm buying that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have female, it's almost all, I have a lot of female predators and male predators. And anyway, I love my story. Very proud of my story. But honestly, all the stories in here are good. You know, because we had to be in order to make it. You know?
So I'm gonna throw one last quick
Predator, Eyes of the Demon.
So I'm gonna throw one last quick one out there for a speed round. And Len, I'll just start with you and we'll just go around. What do you think the legacy and future is of Predator in terms of sci-fi and storytelling for you?
I just want that kind of parallel to Prey, where it's samurai times, Hiroyuki Sanada fighting a predator. And that if that's the legacy, just kind of doing the Prey formula over and over, since they kind of now, hey, we've worked out the kinks, we know what we kind of need to do. I mean, I'd like to see a movie where the predator would win.
Mickey?
I'm with Len. I think they figured out a new formula with Prey, and I read that they're working on something called Badlands, which I'm sure the title will change, which is the same idea. I like this new direction. I think it's given the Predator a new life and a new sort of perspective on what you can do with that character, and I like that.
Jenny?
I want them to break the every other movie curse. You know how like the Star Trek movies, the even numbered ones are the good ones. I feel like currently in Predator, it's the odd numbered ones that are the good ones. And I would like them to break that curse. I don't actually come to a Predator movie for camp. So I'd really like the camp to be gone. It doesn't sell me on it. There's so many other places to be campy. I don't want to be campy with my predators. I want my predators to be awesome and the humans fighting them to try to be as awesome, not, yucky. I don't want Steamboat Willie. I mean, the Predator, right? So I'm hoping that whatever comes forward, it either is like Predators or based on what everybody else is saying, Prey, because I would rather see that. I'd rather go back and see what Adrian Brody's character is doing on the planet than ever see Predator in an urban setting again.
Ian?
Well, let's see. It's sort of, parroting everybody else with a Prey. Like, I'm looking forward to this Badlands or whatever it's going to be. That should be interesting. But I would also like to see, I'm a big villain fan, and it will be nice to see the company behind that's been tracking the aliens and the predators. That would be nice for them to sort of dig into that too. Because, like, from every single movie, the government has known about them. So somebody's known. So just to see like how far that rabbit hole goes, like how long has it been, like the minds behind it, and just I don't know, that's just me wanting to see like, behind the curtain, like who are they? you know.
Fraser?
I think I'm not going to guess because I hope Badlands will be good, but Prey took it in. I would never have guessed they would come up with something like Prey. If they keep going in that vein, great. If they can sit down and come up with another new direction that none of us see coming, that will also work. So I am not going to guess. I hope they are smarter and more imaginative than we are in seeing the future that's coming for the series.
Steven?
Not well, okay. I kind of have a cynical view of Hollywood, as most people should. And the fact that it is a Disney, it is now a Disney property, kind of worries me because I almost feel like anything could happen at this point. Like going back to what something EM said, like it could turn into a franchise, which basically maybe breaks down was it Wayland Yutani, and maybe kind of like serializes how the company comes to be, or it could be Captain America versus Predator. It like it's kind of possible just because of all this ownership stuff.
I think Disney owned them before they made Prey.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
So,
True.
Yeah, because I mean,
give
Disney
some
owns
credit.
Hulu, so
Right.
I don't think I think Disney is hugely protective of this particular property.
which
Hugely.
is good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Um,
The levels. Trust me.
because
The levels.
because obviously the potential is there to do amazing things. On a personal note, I would like to see the story behind the gun that Danny Glover got handed.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, and I
just
wonder if
personal
that's
thought.
not going to be part of what comes out of Badlands. It'd be fun to see him do a throwback to that.
Right.
Yeah. There are certain things the writers are not allowed to write. Anything to do
No.
with Schwarzenegger's character, Danny Glover's character, but they could do them in the movies. So I think maybe that would be awesomely cool.
ooh, or maybe they could do something like Monarch, like
Mm.
create like a series that,
I love Monarch. God, that's so good.
yeah, yeah, and I think that they could do something like that with Predator because it has so many
Mhm.
storylines, so
Yeah.
much to it.
Well, I think we've kind of at least gotten the franchise up to date. But before we get out of here, let's make sure everybody knows where to find you guys: website, social media, which alien book they need to go buy next. So Len, you're up first.
My website is len-berry.com, and hopefully it will be functional again by the time you click on it. I'm trying to spruce it up a bit so it's easier to say, hey, here's this book, and here's this book, and here's me, and fun.
Mickey?
Oh, and you're supposed to buy the book with Ginny's story in it.
I can be found at mickeydubrow.com. List all the books I have, and we'll later list the books that are coming out.
Jenny?
GiniKoch.com. I'm all over Facebook. I'm on X, Twitter, Blue Sky, and Pinterest. And the Predator book you want to buy is Predator: Eyes of the Demon. It's been out for at least a year. It also has a wonderful audiobook and other releases that are not Predator releases. I have a re-release of my romantic suspense set in and around New Orleans, Plush Life, that came out earlier in February from Ginger Blue Publishing. And also coming from Ginger Blue is next month is my first official straight mystery, co-written with Phoebe Bayless, Falls Girl.
EM?
Oh, I can be found at emlacey.com. I am on the Facebook, the TikTok, the Instagram. That's where I am. I'm more on Facebook, usually posting coffee memes because that's my thing. But yeah, so all my books are listed on my site. I have 2 pending publications this year. I can't say anything about them yet officially, but yeah, I'm on Amazon. I have the Biggs and Myers series, where you have vampires that have legal problems. So that's interesting. So yeah, so That's a little bit about me.
Fraser?
I am FraserSherman.com, Fraser. You can find all my books there or on Amazon or most other sites, including The Aliens Are Here, with the chapter dealing with Predator 1 and Predator 2 in detail. I'm also on Blue Sky, Facebook, X, and I think that is about it for social media.
Stephen?
I have a lot of vampire stuff, a lot of serial killer stuff, some Black history, a host of other little things. And all of that can be found at www.laughingblackvampire.com.
And I've had the host being your pleasure. The pleasure of being your host. Jim Nettles. You can find me at jamespnettles.com, authoressentialsworkshops.com. You can find me at creatingpros.com, and of course, your Continual. And just remember, we ain't got time to bleed. See you again next time.
I love it, love it, love it.
Nice.
Ooh, and
Nice.
Stephen, I have to say, I love your story, The Retiree and Slay.
Oh, thank you.
I
Thank
love that story. That was
you.
so well done, so
I
clever.
appreciate
I loved
that.
it.